and welcome to Midday on this Friday. We're visiting first with Dr. Preety Desai. Thank you for joining us.
Pleasure.
And you are a laser implant specialist.
I am.
Periodontist as well, right?
Periodontist.
Okay.
That's my main field.
So just for people who don't know quickly, I know every time we kind of touch on it, but what is the difference between a periodontist and the other fields of dentistry?
Well, everyone has to become a general dentist, and then after that you specialize, and there's different subspecialties. And periodontics is traditionally the health of the tissues and the keeping of your teeth for longevity and replacing it if you need to.
Perfect, which is very relevant to what you're talking about today.
Yeah.
Obviously, a super hot topic right now is the legalization of marijuana. And it has a lot of effects that we're finding out as this research comes out, as we're exploring this possibility. But one that maybe people don't think about very often is oral health.
That's very true, very true. And we've touched on this before, is regular cigarette smoking has so many repercussions in the mouth, obviously oral cancer, but people lose their teeth faster. And that's no different for marijuana. People are being marketed to it, and especially our children, which is terrible, that now that they're losing money on marketing to kids for regular cigarettes, they're going for vaping. And
vaping was something that we were visiting or talking about a little bit beforehand, and how prevalent it is amongst youth right now, and how, you know, the marketing kind of got ahead of the education.
That's very true, and that's part of the reason about today's discussion is that vaping is equally poor on your oral health and systemic health, but we don't even have enough research on how it actually affects the lungs in a different manner than regular cigarette smoking because of all the toxins for the inhalations and the propellants.
And because, I mean, even on a cigarette box, they're now required to put the ingredients.
That's right.
And on vaping probably as well. But the thing about vaping is you can add things yourself. We're talking about, you know, kids are adding things into the vaping without having any idea what the repercussions are going to be.
Yeah, and it's going straight to your lungs.
Yes. Yeah, adding it into your body. I thought this was a really interesting. So you write, this is a column, I believe. Do you post it online?
It's actually going to be in Camos this week, I believe, next week or the week after.
Perfect. Okay, so you can watch for this article. It's really informative, but this section in particular, research shows that 9 nicotine-containing cigarettes is equivalent to 1 cannabis-containing cigarette or 1 episode of vaping.
That's right. That's right.
Education that I don't think that youth in particular have right now.
Yeah. And because of all the regulations on cigarettes, it has reduced in toxicity relatively, but vaping and the legal or illegal usage of marijuana, there's no control. It is Western cowboy country right now.
Okay, so I think the main objective is to get the education out there.
Yeah.
Have people know. So this article talks on a number of things. I really enjoyed your opening sentence here. Your negative effects of your mouth's health is not based upon the legality of marijuana, methamphetamines, or narcotics. Can you just explain what you mean by that?
You know, there's a lot of obviously discussion in the news about marijuana being legalized next year potentially, but there's also discussion about some aspects of methadone is already out there, but heroin legalization, et cetera. So it really doesn't matter what your own personal choice is, whether you choose to partake or not. The fact is your body decides what's toxic and what isn't toxic. And you have to be your own advocate. You have to be your own lawyer and read all the fine print. And like anything that's marketed to us, you know, at Christmas time or foods or all the additives in foods, what you choose to put in your body, you have to be the judge of it, not being marketed to.
Absolutely, yeah. It's not always a question of just, is it legal, but is it beneficial?
Yeah.
And in this circumstance, we're seeing very clearly that it is not.
There's no benefit except the psychological benefit that some people obviously, you know, need in their opinion.
Making sure that people make an informed decision.
Exactly.
A few of the other adversarial effects that you maybe want to touch on, oral cancer risk is?
Oral cancer in regular cigarettes for sure is out there, people losing their teeth, and the same thing with cannabis or vaping, that there are local changes in the epithelial and connective tissues that affect the gums and the throat, and we know people have had a history of oral cancer, you know, Martin Sheen, these kind of stories do come out.
Pictures that you brought with us as well. Yeah.
And the other thing is the fact that it actually affects the whole brain and spinal cord, so how you metabolize other drugs and the systemic effects, not just the lungs, but your brain.
Yeah.
And of course, how do we judge? You know, we're not going into a breathalyzer and talking about, you know, your emotions. You're talking about your toxicity level, right? And how does it affect your judgment? How does it actually change your brain cells?
Right.
And that cigarette smoking doesn't do that. I mean, this is just the beginnings of the inflammation in the back of the throat, and that's after vaping.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, see, and having the actual visuals for
Yeah.
this, it makes a more powerful message to
It does.
understand
It does.
the very real repercussions.
Yeah, and so your body, I mean, you don't have to be a rocket scientist or even a dentist. You know that that's not good for you.
You can look at that
That's
and say,
bad.
that's not normal.
That's not bad at
That's
all.
not what we're going for here.
Exactly.
Great. Okay. Also, drug interactions, I thought was another fascinating one that you touched on. Just really quickly, I think this is something that people may not consider as well. You really have to take a look at what kind of drug interactions you may have as well.
Exactly, and not just with prescription drugs. They interact all over the different body parts, in particular your brain. If you're on antidepressants or even platelet thinning medication, it all gets metabolized in the body. And if you are either vaping or using any narcotics or illegal, it changes the way you actually use those drugs, other drugs in your body. So if you're diabetic and you're taking metformin, it will change the way metformin works, because it's a big chemistry experiment in your body. There's only so many enzymes that will metabolize certain drugs, and that's it. The rest is all available, and it could be toxic doses.
So much of this is not necessarily about telling people what to do, but instead giving people all the information so that they can make an informed decision for themselves and their health.
Absolutely.
Okay, great. And again, the importance of communicating this to the youth in our lives as well.
Yes, because they are being targeted front and center right now.
Absolutely.
The tobacco companies used to go after them. Now the other companies are going to go.
Okay, well, thank you for joining us today. Again, you can watch for this article in Kamloops This Week. Or you can visit kamloopsperiodontist.com for more information. Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.
We'll be back with more Midday in just a moment.